So friends, welcome back. So this is the second part of our journey. So in the first part, as you remember, that we have created all the Azure resources and services that will be needed for this particular demo purpose. Now our objective will be see, we have the Azure storage account over here. Okay, let me show you. So this is the storage account and this is the container, and I have three PDF file, three blobs over here. So the primary objective is that and if you remember our Azure AI Search and Open AI service for the text embedding, all we created in the very first half of this particular video. This is the resource group where we are creating all our resources. This is our Azure Cognitive Search or Azure AI Search service, where we will be creating our vector database or vector index over here. And this particular service, Azure OPEN AI embedding Friend 1, this is our Open AI service that will help us to do the embedding with the embedding model, text model. So let's jump into the code section. So I'll be creating as discussed. So let me bring up the documentation one more time. So as you remember that we are going to create this particular indexer function over here. The purpose of this indexer function will be to read the PDF from the Azure blob storage, Azure container, and read the PDF, do the embedding, push the embedded data to the Azure AI Search vector database, create the vector index over there. So that's the function of this particular indexer function. Okay, so now let's go to this section. Before going to the code, one thing I want to touch it up is that so this is our Azure AI service. So if you don't want to do the coding and go to the Azure portal and create an index, that is also a possibility. Okay, so there are data source. You can select your data source over here, and this is my index, I believe. Okay, let me delete it first. Okay, so I don't have any index right now with me. So as I told you, you can go to the data source section and select your blob container over here, and from Azure portal you can create all your indexes and indexers. Okay, but if you really want to have some kind of very granular control on the process of creating the index, then you should be moving out to the code space. Okay, writing your own custom code to handle this particular situation, because in real time things are not that easy. Okay, it's not about reading one particular PDF file and do the indexing and do the RAG and LLM. It's about a particular business scenario that we are addressing to solve. Okay, so for that particular reason we need to have total granular control in our hand in terms of when we create the index, when in terms of we are creating the retriever function also. So that is the whole purpose. But if you are not interested to have this kind of granular control, you just have interest on going on Azure portal and do the stuff, so you can skip this part. Okay, now let's move back to the code section one more time. So this is the code base. So I have written all the codes on Python. You can choose your language. Preferably I have chosen Python because I am working on the LLM and I'll be leveraging libs like LangChain over here. So let me go through the code very quickly so that you can understand what has been written over here. Okay, now as I told you, this is the Azure function. So this is a very fundamental part of Azure function, creating Azure function. So it will be driven by a HTTP trigger for now, because in real time it should not be dependent on the HTTP trigger for the indexer, because see on the real life what exactly our want will be, right? Whenever we receive some kind of file on Azure storage, the indexer should run and do the indexing over there. Or it's something like that in a particular day, let's say once in a day I want to run my indexer to do all the indexing, all the incoming files. So there are two approaches. It should not be HTTP driven, okay, request driven. So it should be some kind of automated trigger base. Okay, so but for this particular demo I am using this, but you can change this particular Azure function behavior, to run on a particular scheduler, or whenever a file being pushed into the Azure storage, you can do the integration also with the Azure storage. Whenever it receives a file, it triggers by event, and this function is a event driven, okay, and it drives on the event. That is also possible. Okay, so let me know if you want to know these things also, so that I can create a separate video altogether on Azure function to tell you all the things. Okay, so now see, this is a bare minimum Azure function. So as I told you, this is a HTTP driven function. So as you see, it is receiving the HTTP request over here, and authentication level I have set to the function level. For now it's not anonymous, so you need a function key to drive these factors. Okay, and security, yeah, we know the security things, right? So I am not using any kind of security mechanism right now apart from the Azure function keys over here. But as we move progresses, we'll see the calling this Azure function. It is not, we are going to make this thing more secure, integrating with a VNet, and also whenever we call, we'll pass one kind of service principal over here, a JWT token, and that will be digested by the function first. It will validate a token. If the token is authenticated, then you will pass through the Azure function. So those are the security mechanism. We'll be handling those part in the upcoming videos, but for now it's simple Azure function key driven. Okay, now let us understand this particular code first. Okay, so here we are loading the environment variables over here. So again, ideally any sensitive information that we are keeping right now in the env file of Python, that should not be the best practice, and you will be not doing that actually in the practical real life scenario. Rather, you will be pushing all your sensitive data to the Azure Key Vault, and with the help of the user managed identity, UMI, or in the service principal, you will get those values from the Key Vault itself. So you are not going to push the sensitive values in the environmental file in a in a simplistic manner. You should not be doing that. Okay, so again, all the things what I'm right now telling you, all the things, my purpose is to create the bare minimum Azure infrastructure. Then we are going to deal with other security mechanism and security things. Okay, now here you see, first method is try. Okay, and we are asking the worker to perform some kind of work. Okay, so it's just initiate. It's kind of you can say it's a command. Okay, that worker to do work. Okay, and this worker function, this do work, actually does all the activity behind the screen. Okay, so let's jump into the worker function. Let's see what has been written over here. Okay, so this is the code. Okay, now do the work. This is the function we are going to call, and all the information, you see, all the information up to this, okay, we are taking from the environment file. Now what is the necessity of it? Okay, let me go one by one and let me show you all the things. Okay, and for helper activity, we are creating two helper function over here. One is Azure AI helper, so that is going to deal with all the Azure AI activity, like getting the embedding over here, getting the vector database, add data to the vector database. All the function has been written over here. Means anything related to Azure AI, I have created a one Azure AI helper class over here, and that will handle all the things. Now what is the Azure blob helper? If you remember, I have told you now, I have to copy the data from the Azure blob storage, right? So from the container, from the blob. So it is like this, it will be FNC process blob. So this is a simple function that will go there in the Azure storage and read all the blobs files one by one in sequential manner, and do the code accordingly. So the purpose of this, okay, let me this is the introduction of two helper function, right? And it is a method called copy blob. It will copy the blob. If you remember, if I go over here again one more time, so once the PDF process has been finished, then I want this particular PDF, what I over here, means this blob, to be copied to the PDF archive container over here. Okay, so once done, it will be moved back to the archive container. So that's the purpose. That is the function of the copy blob written over here. Okay, Now delete blob, of course, when the copy has been done, we want to delete the source also, because all the blob will be moving up to the destination container, right? Now let us see how the worker process is performing the work over here. Okay, so now in the first step we are reading all the information from our environment file itself, like the connection string for the blob storage. Again, this is not the best practice to read the connection string of the blob storage this way. Going further, again we'll be dealing with the service principal. We'll ask the service principal to read the data from the blob storage. We will not be using the connection string directly in this way. Okay, for now let it be this way. Now all the information, if I go to the environment file, let me show you. So these are all the information. This is the storage account where our PDFs will be. This is the storage account connection. Okay, this is the PDF source container name from where we will be picking our PDF files. This is the destination container. After doing the rack, where we will be pushing our data. Okay, which container. This is the OpenAI vector address. Okay, and this is the OpenAI vector password. If you remember, in the first part when we are creating the resources, I have pushed all the information over here, right? So this is the OpenAI vector address, and this is the password. Okay, now I just use all the information over here. Now coming to the thing that the deployment model. So if you remember, we have named it text embedding, so it is there. Now this API version, in the first part when we were working, I told you this information will be very crucial. I have copied this where the embedding is, like for this particular reason, API version. Okay, you see the API version 2023/05/15. So that's the information. For this I have kept this line in my notepad. Okay, so this is the thing when we are saying that what kind of API version that we are using. Okay, now this is OpenAI key, OpenAI endpoint. Okay, and k value. What is the k value? Actually, see, k value does not have any significance right now. Actually, it will be working on the retriever part. We'll talk on this. Okay, now chunking, you already know, when we do the embedding and put the data into vector database, we need some kind of chunk, text chunks. Okay, and I'm keeping it to 2000 and overlap as 50. Okay, now PDF index. So obviously we are going to create a vector index, right? So we are taking this name from here. What is the index name of us? Okay, so that will be PDF hyphen index. So those are all the information. So these are, now if I come down over here, actual working file, you see I am taking all the information from the environment variable itself. Okay, and I am populating all the intermediate values over here. All the assignment is going over here. Okay, now this particular Azure AI helper. So now let us go to this Azure AI helper to understand these things. Okay, now this is the Azure AI helper class. So this is a constructor in it. You remember, the Python, if you already know, this is the init function that we are calling when we are creating our object of this particular class. Okay, now what information I am passing to it? Okay, so the information I am passing to it is this Azure OpenAI key, Azure OpenAI endpoint, Azure OpenAI deployment model, API version, vector to write, and the vector to password. Okay, because this particular helper class, I have told you the objective is it will give us the embedder which will do the embedding. It will create the vector database, will create the vector index, and add document whenever it being called to add document to the index, particular index that it is creating. Okay, so that is the purpose of it. So I am passing all the information to this particular constructor over here. Okay, so subsequent function whenever it being called, that can use this particular informations. Okay, now let us move back to the code again. So here we are creating the Azure AI helper. Okay, and I am passing all the values, the parameters of this particular constructor. So my class, underscore Azure AI helper is being created over here. Now this is the blob helper. Okay, so what is the purpose of the blob helper? If you remember, we want to read the PDF blobs for a particular container. So that is the whole purpose of it, right? So for this I am setting up one blob service client, okay, and connection string. So what is the blob service client? Okay, so go over here, you will see that I am creating this blob service client from the connection string itself. So I am getting the connection string from here, I am passing it up over here, and this is a blob service client. So from where it is coming up? So it is coming from the Azure storage blob import blob service client. Okay, now if you are wondering one kind of leaves, Python leaves I am using right now, so you can go to the requirement.txt over here. As you see, Azure Function will be by default. Then I am using the LangChain libs, okay, and so all the LangChain things are over here. So it is Azure storage blob. It will help us to read the blob files from the container. So this portion is dedicated for Azure AI Search, because we will be dealing our Azure AI Search from our code. This is Azure identity. It is not needed right now. When we are going to create the service principal, this will come handy to creating the identities. Okay, and for now we are dealing only with the PDF file. So this is the unstructured and unstructured PDF. Those libs will be needed to handle the data of the PDF file. Now Python Magic and Python Magic Bean. Okay, so Python Magic is needed. Okay, and as I am working on Windows environment, so Python Magic has a dependency with the libmagic library, but libmagic has all its data are under the Python Magic Bean. So these two library will be essential. But here is a tip: when we are working on Linux, right? So when we are going to create our Azure function on Azure, so obviously we'll be using Python. At that point of time, we'll be creating our app services on the Linux environment, based on Linux OS. At that point of time, we cannot use this particular Python Magic Bean, okay, because Python Magic Bean is a library which only supports the Windows environment. Okay, so but what is the purpose of the Python Magic Bean? It is supplying you the libmagic. Okay, right? So the question is that when I'm working on Linux, it's not Windows, how can I get the libmagic? Okay, that's a open question over here. We'll see how to get this particular job done when we will be hosting our Azure function on Azure or Linux environment. Okay, we will see that thing. Fine. So now coming to the worker one more time. So as you see, blob service client is created over here to read the data from the blob storage. Now let me minimize it one more time. Okay, now this is our blob helper. So we are passing it over here. We are creating Azure AI helper, we are creating Azure blob helper. Okay, so here the process is actually started. So first we are going for the Azure AI helper FNC get embedding to get the embedding from the air. Okay, so let's jump in to see what has been written over here. So this is the function. Let me zoom it a bit so that you can clearly understand. Okay, so this function is being called to get the embedding. Okay, so this is the Azure OPEN AI embedding. Okay, so from where it is coming? It is coming from LangChain OpenAI. Okay, LangChain underscore OpenAI import Azure OpenAI embedding. Okay, to use it should have the environment variable Azure OpenAI. It's need the Azure OpenAI key to communicate with the Azure OpenAI services. Okay, and nice example is given also here by LangChain. So we are doing this first very the simple thing. Here we are passing all the information to make the communication with the OpenAI service for the embedding. Okay, so we are supplying the model, which model we are using, what API version. This is the Azure OpenAI key for that particular service that we are going to use. That means if I go to the Azure portal and come back over here, we'll be using this particular embedding Azure OpenAI service, right, or endpoint. So for this endpoint, we need to push this particular data. So what is the communication point and what is the key to communicate? Okay, so that is what is being written over here. Okay, so you see this is the OpenAI key and this is the OpenAI endpoint. Okay. No, now so this is the FNC gate embedding. So let's move back to the actual code one more time. So it gives us the embedding, but we are not using the embedding right now. We'll be using under this particular gate vector. So what is the FNC gate vector? It accepts two parameters, means by this particular method we are going to create the index in the Azure AI Search and with the help of the embedding. So obviously the first question, what should be the index name, right? So that is what the first parameter is all about. It is telling us the index name, okay, and it is passing the embedding also. So let's go to this function. So it is in the same file, Azure AI helper class file. So you see this is the gate vector database. Okay, so what I'm sending the index name, I'm sending the embedding. Okay, now similarly we are creating the Azure Search service over here. Okay, so from where it is coming from LangChain community vector store Azure Search, import Azure Search. Okay, now come down over here, what parameter it accept. Okay, so okay, let me show you that thing. Okay, so it again is accept an endpoint, because again it is a service, it should have an endpoint. That means the vector store address or the AI search that we have created, the address of the AI search. So that is coming from the environment variable, and the search key means the key to communicate, again the index name, what index we are going to create, okay, and what kind of embedding we are going to use. Okay, so this is a simple creation of a vector database over Azure AI Search. Okay, now coming back to the worker function one more time. So once this is being called, our vector database will going to be created. Okay, now after that, what should be the next step? Obviously we create the embedding, we create our vector database with the index name. It's a blank index, it's being created, so no data is there, it should be a blank index. Okay, now we want to read our PDFs from Azure container, all the blobs sequentially, one by one, one after one, and get the data out of the air, do the embedding and push back the data to the vector database. That's the purpose of it. For that particular purpose, I have written a function FNC process blob sequentially. Okay, so it is written over here. You see this is the function. Okay, what exactly it is doing? It is getting the blob service client to communicate with the blob. Okay, it is getting the container client, for the particular container that we are targeting. So that what is the source container name, right? So that's all the information has been pushed in this particular environment file. So you see the source container name is PDF. Okay, now if I come down over here, so now it is going, list all the blobs, means all the PDFs, on this particular container, PDF container, all the list, these are all the blobs. So it will go through getting the list out of it. Okay, now it will iterate a for each loop over here. Okay, for each blob in the blobs, in the list actually, it will go, it will try to get the name of the blob first. Okay, and it will print the statement that I am processing, I am processing this particular blob. Okay, so the particular PDF file, now it will send the data, the blob name that it is targeting to process, to Azure blob helper to get the data out of the blob. Okay, so FNC process blob, what I'm supplying over it, it's a container name where the blob exists. It is the destination name where I want to push the blob after my work has been completed. Okay, and what is the blob name? So let's go to this FNC process blob under the Azure blob helper. Now if I come down over here, you see this is the FNC process blob. Okay, so what is exactly happening over here? So list of document, if you want to understand what is that, that's a LangChain docstore document, import document. Okay, so because we are using this particular function, Azure blob storage file loader and loader.load. Okay, it's written the list of documents, what is called actually the LangChain docstore document. Okay, so I'm creating an empty list over here. So I'm calling this particular function Azure blob storage file loader. So to communicate, I'm passing the connection string of the particular container where I want to read all the blobs, okay, and where the blob exists even, okay. So I'm passing the container name as well as the blob name that I'm targeting to read, okay. So after that, I'm calling this loader.load method. It will load all the data from the particular blob source that I'm targeting right now, and it will read all the docs over here. It's a local variable. Now I'm pushing this to this particular document, okay. So underscore document is a list, you remember, it's a list of document, right? So after the data has been read from the blob storage, okay, now what exactly I'm going to do is that, if you remember that our purpose is done to read the blob data, so obviously we'll be sending the particular blob from source container to the destination container, right? So that is what the small function copy blob is doing right now over here, okay. It is getting the data or getting the source blob, it is pushing the source blob to the destination blob, okay. And you see here is the copy, this is particular blob from URL. So this is the destination blob that we are going to create. It is being created over here. It's start copy from the source blob. So this is the source blob URL, okay. After the copy has been done, it will written successfully copied. Now once the blob has been copied from a source container to destination container, so obviously here we are doing, see, this particular step, we are putting one kind of metadata over here, okay. So in the next part, upcoming part, when we are going to deal with the Azure AI Search, some custom filters will be there. So this part will become important, population of the metadata. For now, let it be this way, okay. Now here is a function called delete blob. So obviously this same thing, if the copy is been successful from source to destination, then obviously our worker will be calling this del blob to delete the blob from the source, okay. Now move back to the actual over here. So as you see, it's being copied, all the docs is returning back. So FNC process blob, so FNC process blob, if you see, it is returning the list of document to us, okay. This is the FNC process blob, this is the return type of that list of document. So it is returning the docs, okay, list of document. Now once this process is complete, our worker will have the list of document, okay. Now the worker will call the Azure AI helper FNC add doc to the vector database, send the docs and chunk size and chunk overlap to this particular function Azure AI helper. So if I go to the Azure AI helper, and this is the function that we are talking about right now, so it is getting the list of document, chunk size and chunk overlap. Now what exactly it is doing, it is executing the character text splitter to split the text at the end of the line, and splitting the document, getting the doc and adding to the vector database, right? So this is a self.vector. If you remember, that vector has been created over here, the vector database. So it is adding the data to the particular index, that vector database index that we have created in our previous steps, okay. So now if I come back to here, after doing all the activity, if all the things are going successfully, then obviously the next step will be deleting the blob, deleting the source from where we are reading the data, okay. So this is the total workflow of this process blob sequence. So it will go for each PDF, do the same work in a recursive manner until unless we reach the end of the our source container. There are no more blob left, no more PDF left in the particular container, okay. Now these are all standard exception handling, so nothing to do it right now, okay. So after this function has been executed, so it is returning a red file, okay. If it says it's okay, means all the things has processed successfully, then our job is done. We are printing a message, processing of complete for the PDF blob. Index generated, what is the index, okay. Now this is the end time. I want to capture how many time is being consumed over here, and return type is okay because it is returning to the Azure function. Or if there is an exception, it will be returning the exception. to the caller. So who is the caller for this particular do work? If you remember, we started from here, right? So this is the rate val. So if the rate val is okay, then we are sending back a message to the caller that your Azure function has been successfully executed and HTTP status code being 200 over here. Else it is an internal exception. We are suppressing the exception. We are not going to send the exception to the end user because that's the sensitive information, and this is where the exception, if the exception is occurring, so it is the exception handling block. Okay, so we are not using any kind of logger to logs all the activity, separate logging mechanism. All the things will be rolling out slowly. So now, too much discussion, right? So let's execute the thing. Let's see what has happened. Okay, now this is the PDF archive storage. So let me delete all the data from here. Okay, so all the data from the PDF archives has been deleted. I have all the data on my PDF container over here. PDF archive container does not contain any kind of data right now. Okay, once it being processed, then all these 3 PDF will be pushed back to the PDF archive container from PDF container. Fine. And if I show you my Azure AI Search, so this is where we are expecting our index should be created with our PDFs. Okay, right now there is absolutely no index. Okay. Now let us run our Python function. So okay, let me try without debugging. Okay, it will go to the code. First host our Azure function locally. So we are doing the things from our local environment right now. So as you see, the indexer is available, the function is available on this particular URL. So localhost 7071 API indexer. Okay, now I will be using the postman to execute this particular activity. So this is my get. I'm hitting this particular API endpoint. So I'm sending my request. So if I send my request, all the thing will be coming up over here. You see the process has begun. Okay, so it can take couple of minutes to process all the data. You see, if you want to study the log, what is happening, you can see that it is reading the data. It is targeting this particular blob right now. What is EA v2 PDF? It is reading the data. Now all the blobs is written one by one. Okay, now it is going for the text embedding. It is doing the embedding. You see, it is asking for the embedding. Okay, so now it is going for the index creation. So our index name will be PDF index. Okay, so you see this is the post going on. Okay, so response status is 200. That means the index has been created successfully. Okay, now it is starting the next blob. What is generative AI? It is doing the same process. I believe it's done. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so this is the start time where we started 4:12. Okay, and it's end around 5:04. It's almost less than a minute, 50 seconds. Okay, reading 3 PDF files and doing all the steps. So now if I open up my Azure Storage Explorer, so expected behavior, this PDF container will be blank. Okay, let's see. I refresh it. It's gone. It should be coming up in the PDF archive. So this data has been processed. You see all the PDFs, all the blobs. This is the source container, this is the destination container. After processing, all the PDF has been pushed back to the PDF archive container. Okay. Now let us go to the Azure indexer. Now this is the, so let me refresh it. So don't worry, you see PDF index, it's being created, but it's showing 0 documents, 0 bytes. Don't worry, it takes some time to refresh the data. Okay, it's not like that something went wrong. Absolutely not. Okay, everything went fine. You need to wait cautiously. That's it. So let us stop this Azure function which is running on our local environment, pressing the Ctrl C on Windows. Okay, this has been done. Okay, fine. Move back to the Azure portal. Yeah, you see. Now you see the index, PDF index that we have created. Document count is 19. Index size is this one. Total storage size is this. Okay. So we have successfully created our Azure AI service search index, means the vector index, by our Python function code. So now this part we have completed, this one, right? So let us mark one more time with green. This activity has done. Now if you come down and click this PDF index, okay, so if I search for some kind of keyword over here, let's say I am searching for AI. So this is the vector return. So it is getting the data. So let me show you. It is getting the data, metadata under the source, from where it is getting. It is getting the data from this particular PDF, and go down. You will see that the source will be next. Okay, this is another PDF file. Okay, so this is the evidence of the RAG search right now. Okay, it is performing the RAG based on our keyword. Okay, so this part we have successfully completed. But if you really want to go to the Azure portal and do this kind of RAG searching, that was not a purpose, right? So obviously we will be needing our second Azure function to read the data from this particular vector database based on our query that we are going to supply. So that is what our indexer function will, or retriever function, I'm sorry, the retriever function will be coming up next. To do this particular activity, it will take a query from the user. Now we will see what is the meaning of key. It will go to the retriever function. The retriever function will go to the Azure AI Search or this particular index that we have created over here, and do the similar kind of searching that we are doing over here, and get the data back from the Azure AI Search in the particular format that I have shown to you. Okay, and then this particular retriever function will push the data, means the context or RAG search result, with the query to the another Azure OPEN AI search service that based on the chat GPT-35 Turbo. Okay, and this particular AI search, this particular OPEN AI service where the model even exists, it will summarize give us the summarization of our query with the context, RAG context, and send us the summarization to the retriever function, and retriever function will send it back to the end user. Okay, that's the total workflow. So in the next part we will be working with our retriever function on Python to do this particular activity by the code itself. Thanks mate for watching this particular video. So this is the second part of our journey. So again, if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up so that I can understand that I am aligned with your thought process, I am helping you. And also please subscribe to this channel, and let us make a communication channel going. Thank you.